Hey, YouTube, quick video. I wanted to show some things that you won't necessarily see on YouTube videos. It's all about the detail. Things that if you don't get it right, well, basically your job will be a bust because you'll have to take everything apart and it will be for something that you didn't think could happen. Okay? So, of course, when you do your bellows install, you think, okay, you're focused on the bellow or the bearing. But really, it's the other things that are going to get you too. And I'm going to show you here real quick what I'm talking about. So this is the back of a bell housing. Here's the shift cable connection here. Here's the water hose here on the left. And then on the right, down towards the bottom is the oil line. Um, here's the transom side. And here's the speedometer cable coming down here, this long skinny cable. And then this is the thicker one here is your water hose. And we all see the water hose up here. We see the hose clamp. That's an obvious one that you got to get right. You got to make sure that thing is on there correctly and that it's tightened down correctly. But to me, just as important is this here clamp here that holds the speedometer cable. Okay, this is your speedometer line, and as you can see, your speedo line up here, it's kind of pulled up, and there's a reason for that. Okay, so when it's time to button all this back up and you got everything, all the new hoses on, all the new lines on, and your bellows are connected, bell housing's connected, you go to put your out drive back on, and you're doing your little test there, and everything looks good. But if you don't put this clamp back on here, where your speedometer line is, your speedometer cable is going to flop down and flop behind your out drive. And so when you trim up your out drive and trim your out drive up and down, your speedometer cable is going to be caught behind the drive, and it's going to damage it, or it's going to snap it. Either way, it's not good. And it's just because of this little clamp, and you might overlook that clamp or you might lose it, and then you're basically going to be hosed because your speedometer cable is going to be flopping around behind your out drive. So pay attention to that one. And then another one over here on the right hand side is your oil line. Now your oil line has a clamp right here at the top, and you can barely see it there. And there's a nipple that comes down off this oil fitting. There's a nipple, and you push your oil hose up on that nipple, and you're trying to get it flush to the bottom of that oil fitting there. So you want that oil line to come all the way up. The problem is with that is that fitting and the nipple is plastic. So you're trying to squeeze that oil line on there, and if it's a tight fit, you got to be careful. And here's where your problems can come up. Because now, if that oil line is not flush, you have a potential of leaking oil. Once everything is connected and that oil line is under pressure, you have a potential of leaking oil through there, and you're going to have to take this whole thing apart and take your bell housing off and get back in there and re-secure that. And part of the problem is this clamp here. You don't have a lot of room, at least I didn't, to secure that clamp all the way to the top to where it needs to be. So that's something to look out for, and you're not going to see that on YouTube. These are things that you're just going to get in there and you're going to get frustrated and go, shit, I wish I would have saw that, or I wish I had expected that and been ready for that one. And it's the little things that's going to get you during a bellows install. So on this next um, slide here, here's your oil line here, and here's the end of the oil line. Look how short that oil line is. Okay, that doesn't, you're, when you look at this picture and you see that short oil line hose, it's not a big deal. You're like, oh, it's just a short. But the thing is you have to pull your bell housing up and try to connect all this with not um, very much room at all. So on this next slide, this is the reason I'm really making this video is this clamp right here on the right hand side is your oil line. So this is your oil hose, and it has to get pushed down flush onto a nipple and then basically push it flush to the bell housing. But then you have this clamp here, and this clamp opens up. Okay, so I had a hell of a time trying to get that clamp on there and have this oil line pushed flush to the bell housing. And as you're doing that, you're trying to hold the bell housing up. The bell housing is just flopping around there, and you're like, you got two hands. One's trying to hold the bell housing, one's trying to push the oil line onto this nipple and put this clamp on here. I almost broke the clamp. So that's the whole purpose of this video, is to show you that be ready for this one. There's not a lot of room in between that clamp trying to open and close in between the spot here on your bell housing. Now in this next video, a little better view. So what you could do possibly is turn this clamp around this way, but there was a reason why it was this way. I can't remember specifically why, but once you get your bell housing onto the transom and the bellows connected, I don't see a way of you accessing this clamp. So on my first time doing this bellows install, I just didn't see a way of getting back in there. So this basically became a big issue. I had to get that on there correctly, and it was stuck. So man, it took me a good hour or two to get that one little clamp connected to where I thought it was secure enough to put my bell housing back together and connect my bellows. Otherwise, the last thing you want to do is get out on the water and find out you got an oil leak. Okay, your outdrive is leaking oil through it, and you're out of oil, so you can't trim your outdrive up and down. So this is a very extremely important clamp, and you're not going to see this on any videos on YouTube. It's little things that'll get you. This water hose, it has a standard hose clamp, but if you look at the bottom down here, this is the bottom of your bell housing. You should be able to come up through here with a screwdriver and double check that once you get your bell housing on. But this one here, you're not going to be able to get back in there from what I see and secure that. And the thing with that clamp, it opens up. Okay, so it doesn't have a screwdriver. Um, it's not a hose clamp. It has a screwdriver fitting on it. And even if it was, I don't see how you would have the room to get a Phillips head screwdriver to this particular clamp. So if I were you, I would order a new clamp or a spare clamp just in case you damage this one trying to get it on there and get the oil line secure. So that was the purpose really of this video. And it's one thing that you could possibly run into that would frustrate you. So if this helps someone out there, good luck. Here's the part here, right here on eBay. So it's only $3, and you see the way it opens. It opens up. You're just not going to have a lot of room in there. So it's very important to get that clamp on there the right way and get it secured. So anyway, this helps anyone out there. Good luck. I'll see you on the next one.